We said we are going to remake IBM into a much higher growth company and in the areas where there is relevance in the market. We began at about 20% of the company was software back in 2019. Today, 45% of the company is software. AI is going to be an incredible productivity tool. That said, I believe that services, to the first point, will get transformed. Actually, I don't think it'll go away. I think about 50% of the total work that is done by people today will be done by AI agents. I think we should all face up to the fact there will be, I will use the word, some job displacement. And as that gets displaced, then the question is whether there are other roles that are going to come in. We actually support nations wanting to be sovereign. You use big public global infrastructure and you need local sovereign infrastructure. That's the way I believe it plays out. Quantum is the first time we actually have a new form of computing since 1947. This is a completely different paradigm.
Arvind Krishna has run IBM for 5 years. In that time, he has shifted the company's revenue mix towards software, spun out its managed services arm, and placed 2 bets, hybrid cloud and AI, that are now being tested in real markets. IBM operates at the intersection of where that pressure is most visible: enterprise software, IT consulting, and the mainframe systems that run the world's banks and airlines. India is central to all three. As AI compresses the cost of software development and raises questions about the future of IT services, Krishna's read on what holds and what doesn't carries weight. This episode is that conversation with ET's tech editor Surabhi Agarwal. Listen on, it's Wednesday, the 25th of February. I'm Anirban Chaudhary. This is the latest episode of Corner Office Conversation.
So, Arvind, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Economic Times. It's a real pleasure. Let me begin by asking you, you've completed 5 years as IBM's chief in January. Talk to us a little bit about your 5-year journey. I think IBM has done exceptionally well in these last 5 years. I was looking at the stock price. It's risen over 120%. How do the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years look from your lens? I know it's a very hard question to ask these days, especially in the context of the changing times. IBM stock just last night, I think, crashed about 13%, given all that is happening in the world of AI. What is your vision for the future?
First of all, it's good to spend time with you and with ET. So, look, when I became CEO, I had a very clear vision that we need to grow and we need to focus IBM on the areas of incredible growth. A lot of the stock market reaction, that's an outcome of the investors having confidence not only in the current growth and in the current makeup of the company, but also in how sustainable it is over time. Then investors will reward you with the appropriate multiples and the appropriate ownership. So let's focus on the business side. So we said we are going to remake IBM into a much higher growth company and in the areas where there is relevance in the market.
Yeah.
We began at about 20% of the company was software back in 2019. Today, 45% of the company is software.
Yeah.
3/4 of our M&A and about the same in terms of our R&D. Innovation goes into software. So that's the first big change that we did. The second was we also felt that the consulting part of the business can grow, but managed services is unlikely to.
Yeah.
So we separated that and spun it out. Big task. It was a third of IBM. It was about a third of our revenue, and we took it outside the company. So we got those 2 things under our belt. Then we changed our capital allocation strategy to focus very heavily on both organic R&D as well as M&A. So our ambition would be even higher total growth, even more how the company becomes software, and that we begin to improve both our cash flow and our R&D in order to sort of serve towards those 2 ends. I think we're maybe halfway through the journey, not like near the end of the journey.
Sure. But in today's world where AI is eating software, and we had a chance to talk to Mr. Vinod Khosla at the India Impact Summit, and he has predicted there will be nothing called IT services or software services anymore. Do you feel that there is maybe a reset required in that strategy? Also, about if you could just talk about what happened last night when Anthropic has released COBOL, right? And the stock has sort of had seen an impact by 13% because of that. A lot of, I think, companies like IBM run a lot of legacy systems which are based on mainframe and COBOL. How does that change the strategy for you?
Yeah. It's really interesting to hear some of these statements. I won't comment directly on Vinod, but maybe there's a sentiment around which is similar held by a lot of people. And certainly the reaction yesterday plays into that sentiment.
Right.
I would say that a lot of these people are using the same exact logic as eyeballs was used in the year 2000. And I think time has told us what happened to all those companies. Eyeballs turned out to be a metric that was irrelevant in the long term, completely irrelevant. And the only ones that survived from that period were those who could create cash flow. Let me note, the ones that have survived are Google, Amazon, eBay. I think that's about it from that era. AI is going to be an incredible productivity tool. I'm a firm believer in that. As an example, inside our own company, we have so far created $4.5 billion of productivity gains, which we have reinvested in R&D and sales.
Yeah.
That said, I believe that services, to the first point, will get transformed. Actually, I don't think it'll go away because services is used when companies want to transform themselves strategically, and then they want to use somebody else because A, that's a bubble cost, and two, there isn't a long-term need to put all of that expertise and all of that resource inside the company because you don't want to fire them 5 years from now when you're done with that transformation. So you tend to use a consultant who naturally gets fired when the task is over, right? So if you're going to tell me that need goes away, I don't really see that. A lot of the work is in business process change and in change management. How do you teach your people to use a new tool? How do you teach your people to become more productive? That is much easier done using outside people than inside. I can tell you that with now deep scars in my own transformation of IBM, that it is useful to use consultants to get that done.
Right.
The other part, we released a COBOL modernization tool 2.5 years ago, used by almost 200 clients. Of course, today, certain companies get a lot more media attention, so they got media attention. But to me, A, there was no news there. And two, it completely misses the point of the systems. Why does the bulk of the world's retail banking, why do airline reservations, why do claims management, why do credit card authorizations run on the mainframe? It's got nothing to do with COBOL. It has to do with the architecture of the mainframe. For certain critical workloads, like if you're a bank that does $1 trillion of transactions a day, and you need to net it because the certain central banks all over the world want to know that you can close your books in 40 minutes, that's a workload that the mainframe is great for. Or you want resilience, or you want to make sure that your encryption is so great that even if people steal the data, they can't do anything with it. Or if you want to make sure that it is completely mission critical with 6 nines of availability, that is our customer who uses the mainframe. So I think time will tell on all these things. The next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months will tell us. We actually believe that one should have good AI tools to modernize your code bases. And in the end of the day, the environments that people have is not a line of code. The environment is where is your data, where are your analytics, where are your authorizations. All of that integration is back to the architecture of the environment, and that is so critical to leverage going forward.
Right. I mean, how do you foresee AI and software services sort of coexisting in, say, the next 6 months or 12 months? Because every few days we are seeing a new tool which is set to completely disrupt the IT services industry, and you are a leader in that.
We are actually quite clear. We think that IT services, which has largely been based on people, is going to be augmented by, you can take your phrase, is it a digital worker? Is it an AI assistant? Is it an AI agent? And we actually leaned forward into that 2 years ago. We created what we called IBM Consulting Advantage, which is our set of, I think, over 200 digital workers now deployed at over 200 clients that actually augment the work that our people do. If I was to give you a thumb in the air estimate, I think about 50% of the total work that is done by people today will be done by AI agents. So you would turn around and say, oh, that means that half the people will no longer have roles. Actually, I disagree. I think actually the number of people will only stay the same or increase because there is so much tech debt, there is so much work to be done that if you can lower the cost point leveraging AI agents, then clients will tell us, oh, then there is more work we can get done because your unit cost has gone down. I think people have always forgotten this element in technology. If you lower the cost, then the appetite to consume goes way up, and we can see that. I believe that is what AI agents will do. But if you don't embrace it to become twice as productive, you're going to lose.
Right. I was also going through this Citrian report that has just come out, I think, last night, where the author was talking about that how it's not just going to impact the software industry, but because they're going to be such white collar job losses, it's going to impact a lot of other related industries, be it food delivery, credit, real estate, and things like that. For a company like IBM, which has a broad based offering across multiple segments, if we were to talk about job losses in these areas, how do you foresee business environment? What could be sort of the tertiary or the related
Secondary,
impacts, the secondary impacts of this?
Look, I think we should all face up to the fact there will be, I will use the word, some job displacement. And I'll try to quantify for you how much I think that could be.
Okay.
So then the onus becomes, what are we going to do around upskilling and reskilling? I think in the physical world, where you have people lifting things, doing things, this is going to take a much longer time to play out than anybody imagines. So 60% of the world's workers work in some form of pretty physical work. It's hands-on. There's no displacement there. Now let's go to the other 40. Half of that is in some sense creative, roles like yours, because you have to have a sense of what the person you're interviewing is, what your audience is interested in. That will take a long time. So that 20 I put aside and I say, yeah, you certainly will be more productive. You probably used AI to prepare for today because it synthesized material and gave it to you in short form. Okay, great. Maybe you suggested some questions. My guess is you looked at them and you modified them as opposed to use them directly. Now you're left with that final 20% of all workers. Do I imagine that 5 to 10 of that 20 could get displaced by AI? Absolutely. And as that gets displaced, then the question is whether there are other roles that are going to come in. Now we're going to design the world for an AI world. AI is going to unlock all these aspects of delivering new business models that'll easily consume that 5 to 10. But those transitions are always somewhat painful. Let me acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But I think this time around, governments are aware and want to do work, but so are companies. Like as an example, we IBM committed to train 5 million people in India with AI literacy skills.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do our piece, so with many others.
Sure. I think it's a very significant time for India. India is trying to catch up in this whole AI race. At the same time, it's worried because it's the epicenter of the IT services market, and we are the sort of the technology hub for the rest of the world.
Actually, look, I don't believe that India is trying to catch up on AI. So I might have a very different view than many people. So let's separate AI into two pieces. AI that is going to be needed for sovereign needs. Let's put that on one side because the countries who need that have to go develop it.
Yeah.
And I think that some of that work has already started. When I was speaking with Surabhi Agarwal, including at Davos, but also this week, he's been very clear. India needs to build about a dozen models. I think 3 of them have already been produced. Another couple are being talked about. Okay, so 5 out of 12 is not bad if it's a year in, right?
Yeah.
And the other 7 are on their way. The government is quite clear that they're quite willing to work with startups and private companies, not just government, to go produce those.
Right.
I believe that India ought to focus on AI deployment because in the end, you're part of the global economy. You do work for clients that are all over the globe. I think Indians are as astute in figuring that out as anybody else. You got to leverage the AI which is available through the globe and leverage it for a client's benefit. I really believe that that is where India can excel and India can thrive.
I mean, I think 2 years back when you came to India, I think you were the one who coined this term that India needs to have its own sovereign strategy, right? And now I think the government of India has taken that very seriously. They have announced this 2020-year tax holiday when it comes to AI data centers, and they're giving tax ops to a lot of cloud service providers, foreign cloud service providers. What do you think of this strategy, and how does IBM fit in there?
Look, this is a big question on public policy. I fundamentally believe that when the government uses incentives, whether it's taxes, whether it's a little bit of capital money, whether it's access to infrastructure, whether it is limits of liability being waived, I think that those are great public policy vehicles for getting the behavior in the private sector to where you want it to go. They wanted more on sovereign, so they want to grow more of a capability within the shores.
Yeah.
All of them don't succeed. Some succeed, some don't, but that's great. That's taking more risk. Historically, India has avoided risk, but I think at the current economy size, you've got to take risk if you want to succeed. And I think that's the right approach for right now.
Right. Do you want to talk a little bit about how IBM wants to sort of participate in some of these initiatives? And also, you've opened so many software labs, especially in the smaller cities of the country like Kochi, right? What's the strategy there?
Yeah. So two different answers. One, we are not going to directly participate in capital infrastructure build out.
Right.
We have made a decision a while back. There we will partner. As an example, we partner with Bharti Airtel here in India. So they are the provider. They are building the sovereign capabilities. We will work with them to add capabilities. And we just are doing one around cloud infrastructure, where they are the provider of data centers. They are the provider of the network. They are the majority owner. We will add capabilities managed out of the Chennai data center, but also populated into Mumbai. And hopefully, as the client base expands, then we'll go into more. So that allows us to both help that motivation from the government, as well as partner with a local provider who we have a lot of trust in and who's a strong provider.
Right.
Then on the second, to help the government on sovereignty, whether it's Bharatjan or whether it's some of the sovereign AI model development, we provide a lot of our capabilities to these people who are doing it. In some sense, it's IBM Insight.
Right.
And then you asked about the software labs.
Yeah.
Look, India is a country of incredible talent. The talent is not reserved in Bangalore and NCR or Mumbai. Talent is where it is.
Yeah.
20 years ago, the infrastructure would have made it very hard to open a lab there because the fiber was not there, the internet was not there, the housing was not there, the schools were not there, so it was not an attractive place for people. But as we look at it, we are picking pockets where we believe it's very attractive and there's enough people from those regions who are actually happy to either go back there, I'll use that phrase, or the local systems and education systems are very good, so a lot of talent is getting produced. 10 years ago, the only great jobs for them may have been in some of the cities I mentioned. Today, if we can offer that. So Kochi was such an example. When we went there, nobody had software labs there. There were some services companies. We opened ours. We thought we would get to 500 people in a year or two. We got to 4,000. By the way, 3/4 of those people were not there locally. They actually came back from all over the country because they were attracted to be within a few hours of wherever they had grown up or where their families were, and they wanted that infrastructure, and we gave them an opportunity to do great work, but in that neighborhood. I feel whether it's Gift City in Ahmedabad, whether it's Lucknow, that early signals are that we're going to have the same experience as Kochi.
Right. Arvind, every time, a global executive came to India, my favorite question was, how does India fit into your larger strategy? Now with AI coming in, do you think that the role that India used to play when it comes to, doing core R&D for the multinationals, for the biggest of companies, will that diminish in some way? What is your take?
I actually don't think so. I think the nature of the work is going to change. If the individuals don't want to use AI tools, and I'll say usually just observing, it's kind of a 70-30 mix. 70% happily embrace the tools, begin to use them, get a lot more productive, work really well with all their compatriots around the globe. Great. The 20 or 30% who might be wanting to push back, they're going to be in trouble. We are very clear. I think India has a great capability and a great sort of big demographic trend to tap into for the next 20 or 30 years.
Right. What is that one message you'd like to give to your huge employee base, which I think one of the largest, if not the largest in the world, in India, through this conversation as we enter into the AI age? And probably some of them are very concerned about what the future holds for them.
Learn to embrace the AI tools. Like we have tools like Bob for software development. I'm using the word not just coding, it's software development, which is a much bigger set of tasks. Learn to use these tools to make yourself more productive. And we'll give you a guaranteed wonderful future. As an example, by the way, last year was the best bonuses we paid our employees in probably 20 years. So that's just an example of how the business is thriving that we're able to then do that for our employees.
Arvind, changing gears, I want to ask you to zoom out a little bit. Everybody's talking about sovereignty. Governments everywhere are pumping in billions into building AI data centers, into building LLMs. Does it make the world a very, very fragmented place? What does it mean for global corporations like yours, which have for hundreds of years functioned in a borderless world?
Look, the world has never been borderless. Let's use the word multinational. IBM was a great exemplar of a multinational company. The multinational of 1960 took what was in their home country, in our case, the United States, and replicated it across in other countries. Because moving goods across the ocean used to take time. So the original multinational was replicate the model, the factories. So that is not quite frictionless and borderless. Every country around the world is always worried about employment and what IP escapes. So those are not new issues, those are old issues. So let's touch on sovereignty and then come back to the new model that we think is going to be there. One, we actually support nations wanting to be sovereign. But let me explain what sovereign is. There are lots of workloads where you don't care where it comes from. You don't need sovereignty there. So where does your streaming movie come from? Do you really care? What does that have to do with national security or working in a critical way? But for certain critical infrastructure, you care about sovereignty. Where is the data and where does it reside? Certainly that's a piece of it. But also if you're dependent upon a fiber optic cable that runs on the ocean bed, well, with what just happened in the Red Sea, those can get cut. You need to still be resilient as a nation and be able to function through it. Then you want to be able to say that with geopolitics in the world the way it is today, nobody else gets the capability to say which technologies we use for critical purposes or not. So I think all of those together begin to drive it. We haven't even begun to talk about latency. True. Certain things, whether it's health, whether it's surveillance, whether it's physical security, those need to be close. The couple of seconds it might take to send data across the world and back, it's not going to work. So all of those things mean that there's an and. You use big public global infrastructure and you need local sovereign infrastructure. That's the way I believe it plays out.
Sure. The CEO of one of the most largest technology companies in the world. How do you read the business environment and the continuous shocks that are coming, be it from the tariffs or the going back on the tariffs and then again new proposals on the tariffs, the geopolitics? What does 2026 look from your lens?
I actually am convinced that 26 should play out similar, maybe slightly better than 25 in terms of overall GDP growth. Look, I mean, we have our own signals from our clients and from our demand signals. But I think it aligns very well with what the IMF has put out, with what the World Bank has put out. Both expect global GDP growth to be in the low threes, if I remember right.
Right.
Congratulations to India. I think it's in the low sevens. But overall, global is in the low threes. And I suspect that remains true. I suspect that technology spending will be in the 5 to 8% range overall growth, because technology typically is 2 to 3 points ahead of GDP.
How do you read the impact of the tariffs and the developments of the last 2 days?
Look, to me, you have to manage through it. We've got to wait and see. From my observation, the first reaction of everybody is almost always wrong. It seems to be emotional. And actually, this is a business environment. As long as it's a level playing field, we'll figure it out. And the last 2-3 days, I'm not reacting to it at all. In the US, at least it looks like, and I'm just reading the paper, it looks like there's 7 other vehicles for tariffs.
Right.
So I'm not going to conclude anything based on what has been stated.
Right. Like you said, the technology spend is always ahead 2-3 points of the GDP. Where are you seeing these sort of spots of growth right now?
We're very happy with the growth we can see in Japan as well as in South Asia. If I look at the Middle East, it's a huge area of growth.
Right.
You'd be surprised, but I think Western Europe is growing quite well, as is North America. The reason is very simple. If you have a business, historically, how did you scale it? You hired a lot of people, you went into another country, or you bought something, or you built another good, and the scaling was linear with the number of people. Now, I think companies all over the world have woken up. Can I use technology to scale my business without taking on some of the other fixed costs? And if you can do that, your business is actually going to be better.
Yeah.
So I think technology is being consumed by all forward-looking businesses as a way to scale the business without adding other fixed costs.
Right. On a different topic, Arvind, we've also seen a lot of changes to the immigration sort of, the way countries like America welcome talent from other geographies. How do you feel about the recent changes and this entire anti-immigration sentiment which has got America?
Actually, I'm not at all convinced, and I've had enough conversations with enough senior and decision-making folks without putting any names onto it. They're not anti-immigration. They are very much on, we want highly talented immigration. As always, when a system gets too far one way, according to what people think, too far away from its core, then there becomes a sort of a whiplash. So you kind of go, your pendulum swings, and then it'll swing back. Like even now, they're not saying no immigration. From what at least I can see, they're talking about, but we want to give more sort of lean in to people with higher and more advanced degrees, people with higher wages, people with much deeper tech skills.
Right.
Okay, so that means that they are leaning in for where there is a gap in skills and the population, as opposed to no immigration.
All right. When you took over, Arvind, 5 years ago, you had made a big bet on cloud AI, right? Now, if I were to ask you in terms of your big bets, what would that? Obviously, AI would be, one that you're doubling down on. What about quantum? Talk to us a little bit about, the quantum as well as the AI strategy.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, maybe just a little bit.
Yeah.
So we had originally said hybrid cloud will be the way the world will go. Back in 2018 and 19, people looked at us and said, what are you talking about? It'll all go to one singular public cloud. I think with the whole conversation of sovereignty, I think everybody agrees hybrid is the answer. On AI, our book of business is $12.5 billion is the signings and revenue added up that we have done over the last 3 years. So that tells us that we are succeeding in the two big bets that we had called out. So if I look at quantum, I'm very excited by quantum. Let me first acknowledge, before quantum is ready for full commercialization, we are probably still 3, maybe 4 years away. But if you imagine, if I say that moment of like for AI was 2022, so if in 2018 you weren't getting ready for AI, you would not be able to take advantage in 22. So that's where we are in quantum. So quantum is the first time we actually have a new form of computing since 1947. This is a completely different paradigm.
Right.
It's not going to replace our normal computers. It's going to be solving problems those just cannot do.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's a big bet for us. I'm really pleased with where we are. I'm actually also pleased, I'll sound surprising to you, that there is so much competition, because that means there's a real market. That's why everybody is going after it. But I think that we are a bit ahead of the competition. And we have a simple example or metric. We have produced 85 actual quantum computers. They've run on the cloud. We have about 20 of them running today because we retire the old ones as they get smaller and not so good. And we have made steady improvements in quality, in scale, in amount of compute that can be done. And I think that we'll see surprising results, not full commercialization, between this year and next year.
Right. We'll end with that. Thank you so much for spending so much time with Economic Times. It was a real pleasure, Arvind. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
AI will not wait for the workforce to catch up. That is the subtext of everything Krishna said today. The question for India is how fast it can engage with these tools. The window to move from being the world's technology executor to its technology architect may be shorter than it looks. That's it for today. This was our latest Corner Office conversation. It was produced by me, sound designed by Amrit Reggie. We hope you liked this episode. Also listen to the morning brief that drops every Tuesday, Thursday and Friday wherever you get your podcasts. Stay tuned.